And one of the most disruptive elements, of course, was a sort of simulation at the end, where we were divided up into teams and given an opportunity, and I got an opportunity to locate business in communities. And the instruction was to go to a local shopping center and identify a location for this prospective business. The key point for me was that when the business was coming, it had specific criteria that it needed to have satisfied in order to make a positive decision. And I went to the shopping center, photographs, I identified, the possibility of a place, and then came to realize that our shopping center didn't have any of the criteria of this, which was a pickleball, the indoor pickleball court. And there were other businesses and people from different parts of the country with different businesses came to the same conclusion in terms of the ability of their community to support the business that was looking to locate. And there were other communities where it was obvious that they could support the business you wanted to locate there. So that was a really instructive exercise, because we have a tendency to think we can do all things to all people, and when you're confronted with the reality they can't be, it's an eye opener.
So this was a good course.
Absolutely.
Rose attended too.
I did. I don't have a whole lot to add in addition, because Paula summed it up greatly, but it was very intense, especially when you are new to economic development. It is a lot of information to inhale and comprehend, but I agree with you. The exercise that we did was excellent. My project, actually, the prospect was a hair salon, an upscale hair salon. So ours was a little bit better fit for what our prospect was. But so I actually round out the last of the full-time employees in our office that has taken this basic course. So all of us have had that now.
So 100% of our staff, and now Paul on our board, have taken the basic course. I would encourage anybody who is interested in getting into the weeds, economic development and tourism, and what it's all about. And the focus is more on economic development and tourism, but there's a significant overlap. Scholarships are available to cover the $600 cost of the course. So your only cost would be time, and it is a week of intense schooling. And I sit on the scholarship committee, so even though I'll recuse myself in doing so, I'll make a fairly strong recommendation for anybody who wants to go to the course.
But you do have to be a MEDA member to apply for the
So
scholarship
there's a $200
annual. So
Where is that?
Is the course just once a year, or is it?
Yes, spring of every year.
And you'll let us know next time ahead of time if any of us are interested.
And over time, hopefully everybody will take the course, and you won't need me or Jamie or where we serve. I've already deviated from the agenda without even knowing it. First thing on the agenda is approval of our July 10th.
I just know I missed it.
Everybody, I'm sure, has committed it to memory. Do we have any additions or corrections? Motion to approve. Second. All in favor, say aye. Okay, our July 10th minutes are approved and official. We have had a practice of bringing mayors or town managers from around the county into our meetings to see greater detail of what's going on in their jurisdiction and how we may be able to help in their efforts. And of Millington, we have Joe Manning here to tell us what's new.
What's new and what's old. Some of this is
It's my birthday, so being old.
Well, it's not old, like it's an old, it's just a project we've worked on a very long time. A long time. So the first thing I want to thank everybody for letting me come and make this presentation. Millington is very active, and it seems like we're going to be even more active as the 301 corridor builds up. And I know that's part of the county, and we hope to make part of that part of the town, but that's a whole different discussion. The first thing and the most primary project I'm working on is the senior village. So first, I gave you just a layout of, this is the property. It was approximately 24 to 25 acres of ground. That was the old elementary school. The town purchased it from the county for $1. And what we have done so far is one, annexed it into town because it wasn't into town. And then we subdivided it into 6 separate parcels. Primary reason was because of senior housing, which senior housing is going, that's what this is drawing up, here, there, and there. So it's 3 parcels for senior housing, which will consist of 52 independent living apartments. Of those, 80% have to be low to medium income. You have to be 62 and older to live there. And I just got a narrative from the state that at least 2 of the units have to be totally handicap accessible, 100%. Looking at the drawings and some of the conversations we've had with the architects, I think they're all going to be handicap accessible. I think that's how we're building them, but we have to have at least that mandatory. We're projecting the rents will be as low as $390 a month to as high as $1,046. That's standards that are based on what the federal and the state say we have to do. Right now, I have a list in my office. So we're building 52 units. I have a list of 38 people. So they're going to, and I know that Galena, Frisco Manor, Cecilton Senior Housing, and Sudlersville have a 3-year waiting list. So we expect those people to flow over. So we expect it to fill up extremely fast. And then we'll again be looking, there's not enough housing.
How many units are in Cecilton? It's pretty big.
It's the same size. I think it's 52.
3-year wait list.
Yes. And a lot of them are from Kent County.
Yeah.
So everybody is trying, we have a lot of them on my list are people that were from Millington originally that had to go elsewhere because there was no senior housing. So now they want to come back, or they have family in Millington and they want to be close to family. I have one interesting man that calls me once a month who lives on Kent Island. And he said he was 92 and he's tired of the traffic. Never been to Millington, but it sounds like a lovely place to live. So word is getting out, which is exciting. And we're excited to get it done. Where we're at is the horizontal infrastructure. We put it out to bid. We were to open the bids today. The state requires you have at least 2 contractors. We only have 1. So we have to start all over again next week. But they did say there's a clause that after the second time, if you only have 1, you could pick that one. You don't have to do it again. So pushes it back about 4 weeks of when we wanted to start, but it's okay. We look to break ground with the horizontal. We wanted to do September or October, now maybe October, November. I think we've given them 180 days to finish. But that's water mains, sewer mains, streets and sidewalks, Wi-Fi, electric, just everything underground. So we're getting there. Then we hope to start building the units spring to early summer next year. And it's a 360-day project. The developer, Frank Hodges, if he has his way, he will have these built in less than that because he's pushing it hard.
Joe, can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Existing water and sewer, is that sufficient to support the project?
Yes. This is the proposed budget with the sources of funding. As you can see, we have some private investors. Then we have state and federal monies, tax bonds, and the town has put money into it. And our money is 1, the property, and 2, we have waived every permit fee we can waive to get this going. And that equals a lot of money when you think about it. It just adds up. So the total project is looking to be $16 million. We're lucky in some ways. We have found, I know this doesn't sound exciting to some people, but we have to bring in 7,000 cubic feet of topsoil and filter. That's 400 truckloads. And we have found it free. We just have to pay to bring it. So now we have to find the truck drivers. So that was, to me, that was very exciting. Finding free dirt. That's, I said, sometimes it's just. And we went over the horizontal infrastructure real quick. The Community Resource Center. This is the school. The school is 36,277 square feet, and we want to turn it into a community resource center. At this point, the town has put $150,000 into the building. That was to put in a new dehumidifier because for 8 years there was no heat, no air conditioning, and it was very, very moist. So we do have mold. We have the floor tiles in all the classrooms are popping up. We have mold that's growing from the floor up instead of from the ceiling down, and we have holes in the roof. So
That's a solid building.
it's a solid building. Yes.
And it was like that when you bought it.
Yes. So when you went in all the time, which I did, it just smelled like a musty building. I didn't realize how bad the mold was until the floor started cracking and then you started to things go off the wall. And then we did roof inspections. We found things there. So then the town has put in, funding to put the humidifier in. We have popped and hauled away all the ceiling tiles. They were the old,
Asbestos.
just like that. Just like that, exactly. They were all gone down, so everything's exposed, which has helped. Now we know where lines are. Because one of the biggest problems with this school building, there are no plans anywhere. There were no permits issued anywhere. We have no idea who the architect was. So we're basically going into this blind on locations and things. So it's every day is a new experience.
How old is the building?
It was built in 1974.
1970.
Not that old.
No, not at all. So we have, the first two things we have to do is put the new roof on and put in a fire suppression system because the only fire suppression was back in the furnace room, not the entire building. So the cost to that we've estimated is $1.5 million. To get federal funding, we have to do a PAR, which is a preliminary architect review, which we're budgeting at $50,000, and that's been a stumbling block because no one wants to do one, but we have found somebody, and thank God for Jamie from her department helped me with trying to find the funding and trying to get it straight. And so we applied for 3 different sources. We've heard from one, waiting for 2, and then we can move ahead a little bit more. In the meantime, as I said, the ceiling tiles are out, which my maintenance department's doing on rainy days. So that saves us money on demolition. They're gonna start popping out the VCT tiles too. They like, it's cooler there, they said, versus being outside the heat, so it's okay. So when we go to the next slide, you'll see this is a proposed drawing of what we're doing. In the back of the building, the back classrooms have been under an MOU for a pre-K, commercial pre-K daycare center. They already have an existing one here in Chestertown, Tip Top Tots. They want to open one in Millington. They have one on Ken Island that's brand new. They're constructing now. They have one in Walworth, one in New Jersey.
So for them, it's an expansion, not a relocation.
Yes, absolutely. And she said her waiting list, she's almost got her classes filled. She's they can go in there. The old kitchen, we're going to turn into a commercial kitchen in Kent County. The old cafeteria is going to be a multi-purpose room to be rented out for absolutely anything. So far, I've had Little Leagues call me about winter training. I've had the Latino community wants to have their festivals, just anything at all we want to put in there. It has a huge stage. If everybody, I don't know if everybody's as old as I am, but if everybody remembers the old schools that had the big stage and the tables and the benches came out of the wall, that's what we have.
I played a Christmas tree on that stage in the 3rd pretty.
Oh, well, you have,
I have photos of me, and I was the littlest Christmas tree. I was.
well, good, because it's, the only thing wrong is we had little vandalism, but it can be cleaned up.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. The library, we've already talked to the public, King County Public Library, they're willing to partner with us to put in a branch of their library in there. We're gonna put the computers in there. Right now, we have a very small library computer at the town office. That's a free, just come in and take books and computers are there, so. The food bank is gonna open up in one of the corners. She's now in the church in one little Sunday school room and she cannot wait. She works with not only the state food bank, but she's with the SNAP program and the TPAP program, and she gets free food from Food Line, free food from farmers. Last week she had 40 cases of tomatoes, 3 bins of watermelons delivered, and a bin of corn. So we give away a lot of food. You know. Then the space in the middle in the front, the senior housing, part of his program is he has to have a leasing office, community center. He's gonna lease space from us instead of building a separate building. And that helps him money wise, helps us because it puts someone in the building.
And leverage that private investment for these grants that we applied for.
Absolutely. That only leaves one little corner, actually 2 little corners. One, I have a church that wants to go there, that wants, it's the church that tried to buy this building from the county however many years ago. So they're gonna start out small and maybe buy property and build up elsewhere. And then there's a company that wants to open up an office space, a management office. And then we still have the little center, if you remember the school where all the offices were, that I still can't in my mind unjumble. But I want to work with putting a hotspot desk office in there and then figure out what to do with the others. Not sure what to do. They're all very small and cut up. So those are our plans. And like I said, we have all but maybe 2 of them basically committed. We just need to get the roof fixed, fire suppression. And then we get to do all the cosmetic things, you know. Yeah.
What's your timing for the fit out, Joe?
I would love to
Getting all
have
the
done
other-
it last year, but
But now, what's reality?
2026. And when I
To
talked to you.
complete or just start?
To complete. Now, USDA said they would come in with funding once we do the DAR, but they would only do libraries, food banks, commercial kitchens, multi-purpose room, and daycares. So that's basically 2/3 of the building.
Mhm.
And then that only leaves me the other, I have to find maybe some state money or private investment money, which we will, because Frank, who's doing the senior housing, will do his renovations. And if I can convince the others to kind of do some of theirs, then we go from there. So it's just, this has been a long ordeal. And we're looking at this project being approximately $9,500,000. So then we get into all these other miscellaneous projects. So the first one is the regional sewer plant that everybody's aware of, that the county and the town partnered with, but the county's probably the biggest partner, probably 90% of it. Because our current sewer plant is only licensed for 105,000 gallons, as you could ask. A few years ago, I asked them to upgrade the license, and they said absolutely not at all, because you're in a flood zone, and you need to go from BNR to ENR, and they didn't want that in a flood zone. And yes, we're in a flood zone. I've been there 20 years, and I've seen it go underwater 4 times. It cost over $500,000 to bring it back total over those 4 times. I was reading history stuff this weekend. That plant went underwater a couple times way before, in the 60s, before we were even accounted for it. So it's just the location. So the county has, if you've been watching that, they've got received funds. They're in the design phase. We did apply, ask for funds to do a decommissioning of the old plant and demolition. That was denied. So now we're looking for another source of money to get rid of the first plant, which is my plant. And then the new plant becomes the county's plant. And we have to move the outfall and run some additional sewer mains. Because right now everything, so the county does grinder pumps to our gravitational system. So then we have to run a pipe from our gravitational system out to the new plant. So there's one huge main that has to go in as part of this construction. But that is moving along really well. I think they're looking at 25 for construction. Yeah, I think it was 25, 26 because it's really close. It's almost like everything's falling into place.
Joe, I think it's $14 million.
Well, they're kind of funding as they go along. So we had funding for the feasibility study and funding for, now they're doing funding for the design. So then he's got to get funding for construction, funding for the, decommissioning of the plant. So that's the 14 million is probably those two added together. But Mike is, when I say he is, Mike Mold. Mike is looking for all the funding and lining everything up, and it's just being done in phases. I know he just got additional funding to do a water feasibility study because you have to have water to go with sewer. So, but he had put water kind of on the back burner a little bit because we needed to get the sewer going first.
Where does he think he's going?
I think it's between USDA and MDE. I'm a little concerned because of the huge budget cut that just came through, and everybody lost so much money. But he has been looking at federal initiatives, and I know we may have to move on. I asked him last week. I said, "So, what does the town start looking for to help?" He said, "At this point, I'll let you know." So, hoping that means we keep saying that you know.
So just so everybody knows, Mike Mold's retired. Dan Matson is the director, but Mike Mold is back in the consulting role because there were so many projects happening with the ARPA funding that we had received. And then in addition to that, the whole Maryland Economic Development Fund. So Mike is back in the consulting role to help move those projects forward, particularly water and wastewater projects.
Let's hold the rest of our questions until Joe has finished the list. Nothing else is happening in Millington.
The next thing on the list was the cannabis distribution center. Ken kind of received approval for one distribution center in the last lot of the drawing. That one application was for Millington. Where his plan to put it is the old Truist Bank building. This Truist Bank closed up shop, sold the building, and so it's sitting vacant now. We are working with him as far as licensing, zoning, parking, signs, and security. The town at our meeting next week will approve our cannabis ordinance, which would allow the zoning to allow it there. And we just followed Comar to get through. Then we have the old, if anybody knows in Millington, there used to be a shop that was a flower shop, and then it was a church. It's right there on the main street. We have a behavioral therapist that's going to come there. She's bought property, she's renovating it. And what she is going to do is work with social services and the schools. The way she explained it to me is if I, as a parent, am having problems with my child, I can go to her and she'll help myself and the child learn how to come to agreements instead of fighting, which will then help with their way they act. Then the Millington treatment plant, like I said, that goes in with the Millington sewer plant because of the 301 corridor growth and because of some annexations we have, we need a second water tower. Do we need a tower and a plant? That question hasn't been answered yet. We might just need a tower and we can send everything to the first plant. The plant can process everything. But I'm not that good at infrastructure like that to understand it. Then we have housing development that is coming. We annexed 125 acres a few years ago on the north side of town. And that's Freeman Evans's property. He's proposing 270 homes with approximately 25 acres reserved for commercial industrial. That 25 acres is on the 301 end of his property, which falls right into the 301 corridor section. He's working with engineering to design his horizontal infrastructure, and he wants to develop the houses in phases so that we don't have 270 sitting there waiting. Then the Maloney's, which is directly across the street and abuts the old Mill Village, They have talked to me numerous times about annexing, and I've met with Lacrosse Homes, who's the developer, and they are talking about approximately 270 homes and a commercial section there, which their property abuts to the Richardson property that has been talked about for a long time. And then we have Avail. Avail used to be ACC, which used to be Clarion, which is including as county. And they make the metal housing units that go over transformers. They have huge governmental contracts with the Defense Department. They've outgrown their facility in Gaines County, but they're not going to relocate. They're moving divisions. So the old Infinity site on 301, which was recently sold, they're renting that. And from there, they are looking to probably buy some more property to bring some more divisions. They came in, they want public water and sewer. So they're excited about this whole world that's going on. They said if they can, once they get the one division out there, and they possibly will look at buying 10 or 20 acres off of either Express Richardson or Freeman Evans or Baloney, they're increasing their job workforce by 50 to 100 people. And they're the one company that may want that last property, that last office in the community center, because they said it made sense to move their administration central between all these plants instead of having it. So those are the little things going on.
The housing, can I ask a question about the housing development? So we're talking about 500 homes going in, and what is the timeline for that? And also, what are the price points on those? Or what are the level of homes?
The timeline, if you were asked any of them, they would like to start now.
Yeah.
But they can't because of the water and sewer. So once the water and sewer situation gets straight, I think there's a mad rush of who can get what allocations so they can build these houses. So the timeline in my mind is all this is going to come to fruition in 10 years.
Okay.
In Millington. Now, 301 corridor, I think it's going to take a little bit longer with everything he's got planned, but in town, because town is the priority. As far as housing units, because we do plan neighborhood developments, he has to have apartments, townhouses, and single-family homes. I don't know the price ranges. They haven't said, and I think they're looking at market. They're not quite sure what they're going to do. I know my planning commission asked them not to build mansions to make it affordable for anybody in the county and around.
Thank you.
Other questions for Joe? A lot going on in Millington. Any additional staff?
I need additional lot of things. Yes, it's only two of us, myself and the clerk.
Joe, that's comprehensive. We really appreciate you coming in and sharing what's going on. As I mentioned, we're going through the process each month of having one or two towns or cities in Kent County to come and share with us what's going on. David from Chestertown will be on our agenda next month. So he's doing his homework now, scouting out the personalities that you can do with this.
So, but seriously, what would you need? I mean, two people is a huge stretch to do all of that.
The one of the biggest things that, and Jamie's heard me say this, is finding funding, finding grants, and filling out the applications. I can see the notice come through. I could send the letter of intent, and after that, I've got, today I walked in with a water leak and a finance problem, and I'm in the middle of the audits, and it's like, how do I have, that's my big, if I can have a grant writer and that grant administrator where, if they probably had to ask me, me shuffle the paperwork, that would be great. For a project manager, someone to follow it all the way through. Because the school project, as I said, it's kind of old. I've been working on it now for probably 5 years. Senior housing, I've been working on for 10 years. And it's just constant, I looked today, I averaged 200 emails a day with all these projects and the little things that come through. And it's just not enough time.
Right. So, well, Joe did request some assistance for possibly a grants writer through the Upper Shore Regional Council, but their budget is not finalized yet. they had their budget, and then when the governor, when the Board of Public Works made the cuts, the Rural Maryland Council money was cut by 25%. So I'm sure that the Upper Shore Regional Council is having to go back through their budget and reevaluate. So I'll follow up with Susan on that, as well as the 50,000 for the PAR and let you know.
I know you're working with Jamie, but we as a commission, if there's anything we can do to endorse your projects or individually facilitate things, let us know through Jamie.
And something else, because you are economic development, we do have some empty buildings. And we would like to fill them. And over the past couple of years, my planning commission has rewritten their zoning ordinance to basically begin an open door to any kind of business that walks in the door. Maybe they won't get approved without some conditions,
Sure.
but we've made less, it's less restrictive. When they can come in and meet with me and say, this is my idea, we find a building, I take the planning commission, unless there's something very strange. My council has made it that our staff will help you with licensing, we will help you with documentation, we will help you with everything, finding funding. Just after I just said I don't have time, finding funding. We will do anything we can to get businesses in there. We want business, we want those buildings open and operated and everything up and running.
And those buildings are on the list already?
They are. I created a form for anybody who has commercial property. They can fill out all the details. So we have everything we need to put them on there. And yeah, we work very closely with Joe and pretty sure all the vacancies we have on there right now.
I just have to give a shout out to your hardware store. I mean, it's a gem. It's like a destination.
It's busy all the time.
Yeah.
Absolutely all the time.
He's done a great job marketing it too. That's the other thing. I mean, you hear about him everywhere. There's a billboard, he's on the radio, I've seen it in the paper. So like all of that thing matters and getting the word out to the community.
Plus they have everything.
Yeah.
And if not, he'll get it for you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's what they said. If we don't have it, we'll make it.
It's true.
Joe, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay or go back to the office and
Can you guys send us her report?
Is that okay?
Email it to
Sure.
us?
the slides. Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm gonna go back, 'cause I have a water leak I have to fix.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's important.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, it was, just really quick. We told them it was an 8-inch main, it was a 12-inch main.
That's the week.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the Kent County Local Management Board, an update on what's happening. Rosemary Granillo is here with us.
I want to thank you for inviting me. My name's Rosie. I grew up Crumpton technically, but my family's always been very
Just across the river.
Chestertown. Yeah. And I've been with the local management board for about 8 years now. And so I don't know if everybody's familiar with local management boards. We, our focus is children and youth. But the next slide.
Thank you.
This is kind of the best way to understand what local management boards are. We are structured the same way. The same way. We are. There is one in every county in Maryland. And the way that the model works is that you have the governor, and the governor can kind of set their agenda, obviously, for their term. But then reporting to the governor is the children's cabinet. The children's cabinet is like the Secretary of Human Services, the Secretary of Health, the state superintendent, all of these agencies that serve children and families in some form or another. They have to set their goals and priorities. And they're managed, like the staff to the children's cabinet is the governor's office for children. That was just reinstated. It had actually been kind of dissolved a couple of years ago, and they have a new secretary and new energy and a lot of new stuff to talk about soon. And then that same children's cabinet that's under the governor, the local management board is actually the children's cabinet of your county, of your jurisdiction. So I have the director of social services, the director of juvenile services, school superintendent or their designee, all of these things.
Behavioral health.
Yes, the Midshore Behavioral Health is our core service agency, and any other local nonprofit, as well as families or people with lived experience, people who have children in the school system, people who, know what's important here in King County. And it's nice because Maryland's actually the only state in the country that has this model where you have kind of a local version with the state version, and so you have a nice flow back and forth where it's not just us, marching to the orders from the governor. We get to have a voice and say, this is what's going on in King County. This is what we need to do differently to be like most effective for our family. So our purpose is really to bring folks together, make sure that we're aligning our efforts and that we're making sure that we are being as effective as possible with the resources that we have when it comes to putting services in place. Whatever services aren't provided by the schools or aren't provided by Metro Behavioral Health or other agencies or organizations, the local management board can use some of our funding to fill those gaps and fund programs. We try not to fund things forever. We want to kind of fill that gap and then find a funding stream to keep that going. And so we have a little bit more flexibility and we can be pretty responsive, which is pretty unique and exciting because we have the boots on the ground kind of experience and knowledge, and we can pivot as necessary. One of the big parts of our mandate is to create that community plan. And so it's not the plan, like a strategic plan of my office or my staff. It's a plan of social services, schools, everybody at the table. What do we want to accomplish in the next 3 to 5 years? And so this is just a very, very brief synopsis of our last community plan. But this is kind of expiring soon, and we are working on our new community plan starting in just 3 weeks. So, but a lot of it, doesn't really change. We had a big focus on economic mobility, also that access to services and centering the voice of children and their families, like how do we make sure people are getting what they need and that the services that we have are responsive to what they want. And part of that, a big part of that is our local care team. So when our board gets together, we make sure that we're not duplicating each other's efforts and that we're aligning and supporting each other. The local care team does that at the family level. So a mom or a child will come in and they'll say, we got referred to juvenile services and the school said this and this is going on. And we need to make sure that all of those agencies are at the table with the family and they work out an action plan and we make sure we're all on the same thing forward. Instead of that family having to run and tell their story 5 different times to everybody.
And they come to you, it's.
Yes, we get referrals. We can take a referral directly from the family, or we can take the referrals from the school, from social services, from whoever.
And help me out with economic mobility. How do you measure that? How do you move that? How do you fix it or whatever?
I'll be getting into that
Okay,
a little
okay,
bit more.
gotcha.
But when we first identified that 4 years ago, we were definitely looking at, if we're going to address economic mobility in King County, we have to address basic. And so that's when we started going down that path with a housing coordinator. And I think the one program we have right now that still is in alignment with that area, that priority is the families. And that's home visiting for new parents. Because if you're going to help a family kind of turn their life around, the best time to come in is when they've just had a baby. And that's when you have the most motivation and you can really just be a huge support and really make a difference in getting everything in place so that they can thrive and that you're making a difference generation after generation. We currently have 3 people. So there's a director, I have my local care team coordinator, and I have an admin. I've had admin for just 1 year. So I was reading through your strategic plan and I just pulled out a few points that align. So when it comes to cultivating businesses, one of the areas that my board talks about a lot is how do we support entrepreneurs? How do we lift up businesses that are women-owned or by people of color, et cetera. We don't necessarily have a lot of funding in that area, but it's something that we talk about. Workforce development education, obviously a ton of overlap. We're constantly concerned with increasing enrollment in the public school systems and making sure that that system is as thriving as possible. Making sure our kids have really amazing opportunities and transformational educational experiences. And just supporting those different efforts in the community, like Dixon and the different groups in the community that advocate for supports in the local schools. In terms of living and working and visiting, I think one of the things that we really specialize in that we've had a lot of success so far is effectively engaging with families, like being able to listen to the community and create spaces where kids and parents and people who care about them can come forward and say, this is what we need, this is what we're passionate about, this is like what we can offer. And I'll be talking a little bit more about that in our new community plan. And then infrastructure, where there's obviously a vested interest in housing options. The local care team is constantly trying to navigate families who are facing homelessness or currently homeless. So we are very well connected, at least with what's available in terms of paying someone's back rent or getting them rehoused into a new apartment, or if they have, you know, an intellectual disability or another like mental health diagnosis, we can get that into mainstream housing. There's like regional resources that we're able to tap into and coordinate well. So that's kind of my overview on the LNB as it stands right now. So before we move into the Enough Act, which is kind of where the new governor is going, and there's a lot of news, and I don't know how much time you actually want to spend on that, because it's kind of.
I would think we'd love to hear about it.
Okay.
Just before you move on, I wanted to mention, I did meet Dr. McComas yesterday at the Rotary meeting.
Great.
But Nancy from the state and I will be setting up time to meet with her soon. And we would love for you to join us, or do you think that those need to be two separate meetings, just something food for thought, if you think it should be two separate, or if we could all meet together for that initial introduction and share what we do. We'd love to have you join us.
I'm on her like list of people to meet with.
Okay.
Like I'm waiting
So you
for
wanna mess
Gail
up her
to get
schedule.
me a date.
Okay.
But I feel like the more we can be in sync, the better, and the more times I can get in front of her, the better.
Absolutely.
My big mission is for her to actually join my board meetings more often, and my selling point is like, when else can you talk to juvenile services, social services, health department, minorities, like all these different
From her
groups
speech
at once.
yesterday, Rosie, she's.
I just came from a session with her and some other nonprofits
Yeah.
before I came here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very excited about the potential there.
Yeah, so, yeah, we can have that, of course.
Yeah. And vice versa, we can. Are there any other questions in general? But I will mention, the three programs we're funding right now are, I mentioned Healthy Families. We've been funding that since 2014. It's housed out of the health department. The other one is the middle school program it's at King County Middle School, but it's run by Minari's Dream Alliance, and they call it Minari's Dream Academy. They have about 65 kids participating right now. And the whole focus of it is just improve attendance. Like it's not a big structured program for specific academic goals. Like we just want kids to belong and to thrive and to feel connected to school. School because our absentee rates have been abysmal.
It's a low, I mean, it's national.
Like during COVID, they hit like chronic absentee rate of over 40%. But you know, we're not unique in that.
No, you're not,
That's across the country, it's been a huge
So it's
issue.
about like standard back.
Yeah, but we're back down to somewhere in the 20s.
Okay.
And so we're definitely seeing gains.
Yeah.
So the Enough Act is new legislation that was just passed during last session, and it's a $15 million allocation. And I'm pretty sure that this is a big priority for Westmore because it's kind of his like flagship thing. Like he wants to make a huge impact on child poverty in Maryland, or as he says, end child poverty in Maryland, which would be phenomenal. And so the new secretary, her name is Carmel Martin. They've been working feverishly to put together kind of the grant guidance and the structure of what they want to see roll out. So it's $15 million, 10 million of it is going to go to designated geographic areas around the state. So places where there's a very, you can stay there for a
Oh,
second.
stay back up there, sorry.
Um, and so they'll go to, they want it to be place-based kind of community revitalization projects. I don't know if you've heard about Harlem Children's Zone or purpose-built communities or other initiatives across the country where, you know, everybody's at the table and gets together and collaboratively surges resources into very, very low-income neighborhoods and turns things around dramatically. So they want to see at least a handful of those communities happen in Maryland. But for the areas that are not geographically eligible, which of course is King County,
We're not eligible.
there is 5 million just set aside for local management board capacity building grants to mirror this theory of change. So they want us to use a similar model. We're just not going to get that surge of public dollars from the enough grant, but they want us to still use this approach and to partner with economic development, with private philanthropy, with other state agencies to make sure that we're tackling community poverty in neighborhoods. So now we can go to, they've identified like 4 result areas. I'm not going to really read through them, but cradle to career education, healthy families in terms of like healthcare, economically secure families. So they really are looking at economic mobility there, employment, entrepreneurship, higher wages, a lot of overlap with economic development there. And then safe and thriving communities. There's also a lot of overlap here because we're talking about like community infrastructure, like making sure we actually have a built environment that can support thriving families, like a thriving commercial core, transportation, housing, etc. So here's, I'll just give you a quick snapshot of what the data that they have created this database. We can argue about how accurate the numbers are all day long, but this is what they're going by. So this just shows how we rate by child percent of child poverty by census tract in Kent County. So only the census tracts that have a yellow line around them are eligible for those competitive enough grant dollars. So you can see Goldsboro down there in Caroline County is eligible, as is Federalsburg, as is Cambridge, and some places down in Wycomico. I didn't show all those. Go back.
Stay there.
Okay. I don't care about Dorchester.
Yeah.
Just kidding. But then they do show like the rate of child poverty by your census tract. So you can see that it's over 20% in Rock Hall and Fairleigh, and it's just under 20% in Chestertown, and then in Wharton and Millington, it's way below like 5%. So now I'll break it down by the ones that do have above 20. Go down, yeah. So the Fairleigh tract is that one in the middle. And those are that's where we have Quaker States, we have Colchester, Fairleigh, Woods Edge, and the Baywood apartments are in there. The rate is 27%, which means 80 kids, they're counting 80 kids out of almost 300. Unfortunately, there's no physical schools within that census tract. So that's one of the things that would make it eligible. To be eligible for the competitive dollars, you have to have a community school and you have to be above 30% child poverty. So the next eligible tract is Rock Hall. So we can scroll down. And in Rock Hall, we have a community school that has 72% child poverty. And I also have like their specific numbers.
So Rosie, is that
Yeah.
for the entire census tract or is
Yeah,
that just?
for the Rock Hall census tract.
Okay.
So the entire census tract says 20% poverty or 71 kids out of 353. But then the census from the school, for the community school, says that they have 134 kids in poverty. So clearly the 71 is a very low estimate.
Those same kids.
And then the third track is Chestertown, where we have 2 community schools now. Are you all familiar with community schools? It's a new concept through Blueprint. So if there is over a certain amount of poverty in your ACT physical school, you qualify as a community school. So Blueprint is then putting in a community school coordinator, and that coordinator is tasked with doing a needs assessment and really wrapping services around the children and the families that attend that school that are within that catchment area. And so you'll see schools, community schools where they have food pantries in the building. There may be like dental and medical services that can come into the building the way you're seeing Chopton Community Health down in Rockwell Elementary School now. You'll have folks coming in and doing haircuts, like it's, really just doing that same collaborative effort to really bring supports and make it easier for families to access support and start like thriving and being part of that community school.
So when you say the Blueprint puts them there, but I don't know how quite you phrase it, but does the county have to fund that, or is the state funding?
Right now it comes through MSDE. So the community schools get kind of a base level grant that they call the concentration of poverty grant. And that pays for the salary of the coordinator and for the nurse, so that you have more of that like health and the other services coordination piece in place. Then after time goes by, they can become eligible for per pupil funding. And so for every child enrolled in that school, they're eligible from MSDE funding for, so many dollars. And then that, based on their needs assessment and the work that the coordinator is doing, they can use that toward extra tutoring. They can use that toward after school or before school care, whatever is deemed a priority within the school.
How does the community school designation segue or fit with the Title I school designation?
It's hand in hand. Yeah.
So it's not in place of Title I, like it'll be community and also Title I.
Correct.
Okay.
And then I have a big question on this one. So if they're saying child poverty is 16%,
Just in Chestertown.
just in Chestertown. So they're saying for that entire Chestertown tract. And the numbers for the 2 schools are just the students that attend those schools.
Correct.
Could that be because of the kids that go to private school or being homeschooled? Like, could that be part of it? It doesn't seem like it could account for all of it, but yeah.
Leads to that concentration of poverty, right? Because the kids that are left in the public school tend to skew poorer. But Kent County Middle School obviously is pulling from the whole county, not just from the Chestertown census
How
tract.
do they measure it? And do they measure it differently for
The
the
school?
community school versus how the US
Oh,
Census? Okay,
The data on the map that the Enough Act is using is all census data.
right.
And then the school does it by actual, the school intake survey.
Is it like,
They're
free reduced
they're
meals type
classified
thing?
as, they keep changing it every year. I think right now it's anyone that's counted as economically disadvantaged, and I'm not even sure.
But they just have different criteria.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I think like Garnett has 230 students in poverty, and Kent County Middle School has 251 students in poverty out of 400. And just 340 benefits. Right, doesn't, and the data never really adds up.
Well, I mean, it might be what Jamie was saying is that a lot of students are going to private school or not in the school system, so they're not being counted. So that's just the population of it.
So it's a low denominator that doesn't take much to scale.
Those are the kids in the schools.
Not at Garnett. They're just talking about Garnett, so they're just talking about those students in Garnett. Correct.
Just the community.
Right. Which are 250, not 130.
Right. They're saying in the total area, there's 836 students, right? In the census tract. So only 200 are, so when you look at the school systems. So there's a lot of students who are not in the public school systems. Yeah. And so that's where the difference is.
Has a larger catchment. But it's still.
Concerned.
But the only, what I tell myself about data is like, we just need to be able to prioritize. Like where are the kids? Like we know that we have a cluster in Rock Hall, we know we have clusters in Fairleigh and Chestertown. That's where we need to be focusing. And of course, there's pockets in Norrington, Galena, we're not going to deny that. Fortunately, we have a middle school that serves all of those kids in one place. And so we're in a position where we can have an after-school program that reaches every single kid in King County. That would be interesting. I just have one more.
Okay.
So that leaves us, where are we right now in this process? The Enough Act has kind of 3 phases that they want folks to do. We're starting our community needs assessment and community planning process over again. So I'm pretty excited about this. Usually when we do a needs assessment, we hire consultants to do like a survey and some focus groups, and some interviews, and those are great. And we get a lot of great feedback, but you get to a point where you feel like you're listening to the same people over and over again. So this time we're working with a group called Everyday Canvassing, and they're going to be canvassing in the communities. So we're starting with Chestertown. Hopefully we can also do a phase in Rock Hall, but I know that at least the numbers, there's just a higher concentration of numbers in town. And
what are they canvassing for?
they're going to be asking folks, what would make Chestertown the best place to be a kid? And so then, once we collect all this data, we can start creating kind of community or neighborhood action plans based on what people are talking about. But my real big ulterior motive with canvassing is engaging directly with residents and getting those folks to be more involved in these processes forward. So I'll have phone numbers and contact information for the people who have a lot of opinions.
The canvassers are all professional, you're hiring them locally.
So the Everyday Canvassing Group, they're based out of Montgomery County. They've done this kind of work with the LMD in Montgomery. But they're hiring 5 local people. And so those 5 local people will be trained and supervised and coordinated by the consultant group. And then they'll be paid to do that. And then we're also inviting volunteers. And so one of the things we were talking about today actually is that it's really great when we can have elected officials or department heads or other folks volunteer and canvass at the same time, because then you're hearing directly from residents about their experiences, their concerns, and their strengths. Like I'm very much as much interested in what people I feel like they can offer as about what they feel like Chestertown needs. Because I think that's what really generate a lot of transformative change within neighborhoods and different divisions.
Do you have like categories or open-ended, like pick what you need, like a big question?
We're kind of structuring the follow-up questions and probing questions around those 4 result areas. But it is pretty much an open-ended conversation. And then we have it's called a Revan app, where you take all the notes and the sociological data analysis. All the data.
Other questions that were clear?
Yeah, I know.
I think you're doing a great job. I'm interested to see the evolution of the apps. Before your time, supported healthcare. Well, but that was
I know.
12 years ago. At any rate, the one thing I see this thing, the one concern I have, and I was going to bring up at today's meeting, we have a growing homes. It's not being either by the county or and I'm getting reports now, more and more families being affected, and with to the point where we were talking about this church about other 5-year-old, 15-year-old that they ended up taking charge of transporting down to Cambridge, because it doesn't have a shelter. How does do your programs provide any services to them people? Or could it be possibly, money in your plate, could it be expanded to do so? Could you be a point of organizing an approach to homelessness, homeless people?
It's a central concern with my board for sure, something that comes up quite often. And I think the numbers of like children and students experiencing homelessness in county areas a really huge effort. I think it's become like really complex, and there's a lot of players who are actually like pretty passionate about it and trying different approaches. So I think the LMC's role is to coordinate those efforts, make sure people aren't try to help folks see where they can complement each other instead of duplicate efforts. And then our local care team is actively, exhausting what resources are available to get families housed. Like we've been, every day with families that are placed right now in St. Martin's or in Denver, et cetera. So it feels very much part of our day to day. But I can't promise that we can see the big fly from our standpoint, we're about being source where we can try and broker agreement.
Just seem to me that we need something, because it's largely a volunteer-led effort right now. I think it needs some sort of government sanctioned and to say, let's deal with this and have all of the towns, all of the county people engage with the volunteers.
Next questions.
Part of that collaboration and community support, like you have washer and dryers in schools, I've heard of that before. Like, older kids can do that.
I know the high school has washer and dryers, and the social workers have helped kids there.
Yeah, it's so important.
But I'm not sure about the community schools.
The Burgery does like a couple of times a year, they do like the wash, and they'll advertise it, if anybody needs their clothes washed, they can bring them to the laundromat, and they provide all the detergent and all of the money to help do that. So
They do
it's
that
another
with
work.
the laundry love.
Laundry love. They funded it a couple of years. That's it.
And it's like every Thursday, they'll have a volunteer at the laundromat with porters.
Oh, that's nice.
Rosemary, you've brought us up to speed on a number of things that are needed in the community and things that are happening to address them. So
I think there's a lot of exciting momentum, so.
So what's at the top of your wish list?
I want to wait.
Yeah. Have this conversation.
A wife to manage my household.
like Joe, you want to say, feel like you could say, and you can do whatever is with you.
All right.
And you can help.
I do need to get over it. But thank you so much for that. Yeah, I can send these slides.
Oh, now that you had a stack of this, huh?
Yeah.
Oh,
Jamie's got it.
I have flyers. I can bring some of those upstairs.
Yeah, and I can forward them to everyone as well.
Okay. Yeah, I would encourage you to share. I have like a link where you can see if I have an RFP or if there's a job opportunity or a new resource.
Just go to files. See where it says files.
All right, it's time for staff reports. Jamie?
Okay, we're gonna start with the Mako booth. Obviously, that's what,
Right, now one more.
what about that? Oh, yeah, that's part of it. Okay, so we're really focused on the Mako booth, which is next week. We have to go down Wednesday through Saturday.
That's Maryland Association of Counties.
Maryland Association of County, thank you, Deb. And the theme this year was Winter Wonderland. So what do people do in the wintertime in Kent County?
lots of hunting, oystering, some of the other things, Eastern Neck Island trails, things like that. And
Art and
arts
culture.
and culture, like Washington College has a lot of classes, Modern Stone Age Kitchen has classes, two theaters that have lots of entertainment. So just trying to focus on that, there really is a lot to do here in Kent County in the winter. Well, we didn't want to promote a specific
I see.
event, so yeah, we were trying to keep it general. But yeah. So this is a mock-up up in our office. Obviously, it's not anywhere where it's going to be, but just some examples of some of the stuff we've been able to pull together. And it's going to look different than that. We'll share pictures when we're done, but some of the stuff that we're working on, we always have to do a raffle. Every county is encouraged to do a raffle. So we work on that. And then this morning, Katie created for us just an overall thing to represent Kent County that will be at the top of the booth. So just wanted to share that.
Who is the audience? This is a convention and there's an educational component. But you're outside of that in the exhibit hall? People come in off the beach?
We're in the exhibit hall. So let's make sure I'm getting this. We're in the exhibit hall. All the counties are in one space, and then state agencies are in the back. And then more of the private industries like Sigma Healthcare, those type of companies that are trying to sell to local governments are in the front exhibit hall. So we're all mixed in there together.
So who
And
is
it's
the
all,
audience?
so it's all the counties throughout the state, staff, like any of their staff that go, and then state agencies as well as the vendors that are there. And elected officials, appointed officials, and a lot of people do bring like their significant other, their spouse, and they can purchase like a walk around as well. Webinar we had this afternoon, we hosted the webinar on the youth apprenticeship today. 28 people registered, 15 people attended. Would love to encourage members of the commission to attend when you can, because you can learn about those programs and might not fit for your particular business. It may, but if it doesn't, it might be something you can share with someone else in the community that might be able to take advantage of it. So the youth apprenticeship is through the high school. So they start their junior or senior year and they graduate, through the apprenticeship program. So that was held today. And then the third thing we want to mention, and we do push it out on social media, the newsletter, and we're going to try to put those in the weekly staff reports as well, so that everybody gets some access to them. Short-term rentals update, the email letters are going out. They were working on, Office of Finance was working on them yesterday and today. The system will be live on Friday. Payments are due for July on the 21st of August. So they are actively rolling out the short-term rental platform for people to pay online and pay monthly. So we'll have to wait and see what the next couple weeks bring, and then we'll give you an update on that. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Any questions of Jamie? It may be summer, but it's a busy time. There's a lot going on. You want to say anything about sassafras or too soon?
I don't know. Is there any question? I mean, it was in my weekly report about a restaurant in Betterton and what their plans were, just a little brief synopsis. Because I want them to tell their own story. So I'm encouraging them to feed stuff to us to push out to the community rather than have the community tell their story. But there's some basics in the staff report that talk about sassafras and, that they plan to do like a 1 seating per night special occasion restaurant open on
Wednesday through Sunday.
Wednesday through Sunday. See, I already forgot it. I gotta look at the report. But yeah, so if there's any questions, let me know, but we're trying to connect with them as they're remodeling and getting up and going.
They're experienced restaurateurs and they own and operate a establishment in Baltimore called the Bluebird Cocktail.
Yes.
So,
And the location in Badminton will be where?
we're barbers.
Scott Barbers on the bank. Okay.
But it's not open to the public, it's only events.
It'll be reservation only. You can make
But
reservations.
not for, reservation
No
only.
walk-ins.
Got it.
And that's so that they can plan for their food and staffing. and
No, I
all of
understand that. I just,
control
I
their
thought the
costs.
reservation was tied with like the special event thing. I didn't realize it was for the
And
public.
totally, the seating for 20, the chef is cooking out in the dining room. There's a kind of a 2-hour meal and a tutorial,
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Gotcha.
very different than we're used to.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
He calls it a supper club, doesn't he?
yes.
So just a couple of follow-up questions from your staff reports related to some of these things. What, you mentioned Sooty Dog in one?
And yeah, which was another combination to us. What does he do, Katie? Do you remember?
It was on like fireplace repairs, but he also
Sells
does
dog
dog
treats or
treats at the
something.
farmer's market. It was a business that reached out
So
to
it's
us.
a new business. We've added him to the business directory.
Okay, and then, where's the, Riley's Mill Ale Works looking to go?
I
I
don't know if they're disclosing that yet. or not.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. It just, you just
Thank you.
mentioned them that you
Yeah.
were.
Well, as soon as like we know that it's good to
Yeah.
go, they're still in the works of planning everything, but we
Okay.
will definitely share that with you. I've been working with Davey on that stuff. So
Exciting.
yes.
Yeah, I wish you'd go to Geno's,
But in the Chestertown area, we can tell you that.
like Geno's. I just think that would be a great place for it. And if you have any highlights from the Upper Shore Regional Planning Roundtable that you went to a while
No,
back?
I mean, I
just get
was-
caught up.
I was very excited to be invited. I was the only economic development director there. It was nice to have all of the counties there and several of the towns were there as well represented. There was lots of things discussed. I'm waiting on the PowerPoint from Dave Dahlstrom, which has some modeling tools, and there were links in the PowerPoint. So I'm waiting for that to see how we might be able to utilize that information. But they talked about the accessory dwelling units, solar, like all the hot topics that are going on right now around planning and what they're going to be working on to try to work with the towns and municipalities. And they've talked about sustainable communities and how important it is to be a sustainable community. And, currently in Kent County, all 5 of our municipalities are. And I just encourage them all to keep that up. I know that there are some towns on the Eastern Shore that have lost that designation, which means they cannot apply for certain funding streams. So that's really important. Biggest thing I took away from it is to make sure maintain that status.
How do you, what's a sustainable community?
Sustainable communities, they have to submit a plan, like each municipality has to submit a plan. I think it's every 5 years, David, do you know? I'm pretty sure you have to update it every 5 years. And some towns on the Eastern Shore have, with turnover and stuff, they haven't done it, so they've lost that designation. But I'm proud to say that all 5 towns in Kent County are sustainable communities.
And then any update, you said 98 Cannon was sold.
To Don Ergo Holdings. That's all I've heard so far. He's in Italy and he'll be back sometime. Actually, should be back in the next week.
I can add to that just a little bit. He is back, I met the town manager. With Main Street. He is eager to move forward on that. He says it will take him about 90 days to get architectural renderings of what they want. At one time, they were talking about combining a hotel with that. While we do seek hotel rooms, it would have been complicated at that site. He's now decided it's just to be a restaurant. So we have a conference room, but that will make it a whole lot easier placing a restaurant with a restaurant. So we're pretty optimistic about that moving forward.
That is both parked out.
I'm not sure about that.
They're huge.
I, maybe so. I'll pass on a rumor that I heard that he was actually thinking about, gee, wouldn't it be nice to get like a Mississippi stern wheeler tied up out there? So we have no idea whether anybody's serious about that, but it was kind of fun.
That's rumor.
That's what- the other is he was in town last week and had serious conversations.
And David's on our agenda for next month, along with John Carroll, one of the leads, so we'll have a lot of it. Is that your best, Judy?
That's my list for that. Well,
For that subject?
well, yeah, I guess kind of. Don't we finish? Now, let's, what, ties in with Rosie's conversation a little bit, and I've been just following, I get, the, newsletters from Queen Anne and Talbot counties, and they do a lot of entrepreneurial training. They have business ambassadors, culinary centers, they have Smatic has a social media training for farmers. I mean, I don't, and then, Chestertown's doing the entrepreneurship with Sam Joby, right, training, and Talbot County's done that one, and then Queen Anne's, I think, has their own people doing theirs. And I just wonder if you can think about what we might need to offer to have, that, just brings the community together, makes us look like we're doing, things out in the community. If any kind of training that we have the capacity to do might be something to talk about at a future meeting or plan for something. Because as Rosie said, it's one Queen Anne says for small and minority owned businesses, to focus on like Rosie was talking about women businesses maybe, or something like that. I don't know how we get the ball rolling, but I just see it so much in other counties. I wonder why we could do that too.
We do that here, but that might be a discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what we do, so I've not seen that. So if we do them, that'd be great.
And we've got an excellent newsletter, but there's always improvements we can be.
I'm not criticizing the newsletter. I'm just looking at activities that I've seen in other counties that, are training entrepreneurs. I didn't know that we did that. So if we're doing that, maybe we can hear about
We've
that.
rolled into new business.
Yeah. And they also did one on the Delmarva Index, which I thought might be really helpful. That was with the not the upper shore, but the middle shore regional council did one on the Delmarva Index for people of departments of the county, and then, commissions or anybody interested in learning how to use those numbers, use that tool, which, I think it's always great to go walk through some of those things and know what you don't know, learn what you don't know.
Other new business. Maybe we've got them juxtaposed with the unfinished business, but I'm going down the agenda. If we have no other new business, what have we left undone? Paula?
Well, are we a new business or unfinished business, the business sentiment DRE survey? I do just want to go over that real quick because we have done some things since last meeting. We received some good input from Paula to consider so that we can uniformly collect and report on data. So we're going to take that back to the committee and try to consolidate some of that into the survey. We did send out 10 HubSpot forms to 10 businesses to test, and that was good. Even though we've only got 3 back, we've already made some adjustments to the way we ask the question to make sure that we're getting the answer that we want. So we've made some adjustments on that. So we're going to follow up with the other 7 and try to get those in the next couple of days.
There's a delicate balance in going out and surveying businesses as to the length of the questionnaire and the length of the tolerance of the people who are measuring. So we're looking for what's the basic amount of information we want to need, and all the other stuff that would be nice to have. That's a follow-up. So we're arguing among ourselves, arm wrestling, and Jamie's winning.
Also, just to clarify, what went out was the form that we put together for that top portion, not the interview questions.
But a lot of work being done on it.
Yeah. So, and then we're going to try to schedule those 3 and those 7 to do test interviews, and we'll be reaching out to commission members to say, hey, we're going to so-and-so, would you like to go with me? Once we get a date that works for the business and works for us, we'll be inviting folks to go along with us on those visits. The next thing Katie and I are going to do, we're going to start a list. First, a list of businesses, the 10 that we started with. We're going to list Nancy LaJoy's businesses she's worked with from the State Department of Commerce, our major employers list, and then other businesses we know of. And then we're going to share that with the commission to see if are there any we missed? Are there any that are not on our radar that you can help us add to that? And then we'll have a more comprehensive list of businesses. And then we'll decide how to start reaching out to them a little bit more frequently.
We'll all be tasked with going out and meeting with a couple businesses and see how we're doing. Paula, you had an issue.
Well, I'm seriously concerned about the homelessness issue. homelessness issue in county. And I think it's germane to this group because it's reached a point now where it's going to affect tourism, certainly, and it's going to affect potentially economic development. I don't know how many of you go downtown on Saturday weekends or on special occasions, but there are multiple panhandlers. There are people sleeping in the street, in the woods. There was an attempted robbery downtown in one of the businesses where there was only one staff person in the business. Some people are defecating on the streets. The children who were surveyed by the fellow who's doing the planning for park improvements got feedback from the kids that they're afraid to go into the parks. So this is a serious issue in my view, and it has a distinct bearing on what we're attempting to do. And I don't know how much we can do. It's not really our charter
Yeah.
to
But
address
that's a
it.
police issue.
Well, part of it is a police issue because one of the things that isn't happening is there is not physical police presence on the street. And from what I understand from the volunteers who are doing this, that we need to improve and increase the visibility of police downtown. And if you have a different point of view, I hope you.
No,
But
we're on the same page. We
and
really
the other
are.
thing is that it's apparent that the county and the towns aren't talking to one another about coming together with solutions for the issue. So one of the things I think we can do as a body, having concerns about tourism and economic development, is provide real encouragement to county government and local municipalities governments to convene group sessions to address this. I think that's an appropriate role for us. Beyond that, I think anything anybody can come up with is ideas for helping address this, because if we ignore it, it's only going to get worse. Only going to get worse.
Touch on part of that. One of the frustrations of the police is that they're called, but unless the business is willing to file charges, they can't do anything. And that's happened several times in Chestertown. So I think what we have to do is get the word out.
Yes, dangerous.
Yeah. But the response there is just move along. Then they move along to the front of the next store. That doesn't solve it. Right. But if you really want criminal charges brought against the people who are panhandling in front of these, then you really do need to get the business community to be willing to complain. In terms of police presence, I think with the 8 or 9 police we have in Chestertown, we do well. Towns our size nationwide would have 12 police. I'm not getting into the next month's talk. People in Chestertown help pay for the county sheriff. County pays nothing for our police, not one dime. Police that are in Chestertown. And that hampers our ability to have that police presence in town.
We look forward to your full report this Sheriff's month.
Sure.
But the solution is not simply to arrest people and take them or put them on a bus to go someplace
All
else.
right. Kent County is one of the very few counties that has no shelter.
Exactly.
Based on some of these things.
So,
Thank you.
so.
Any other unfinished business?
No, just for the September agenda, which, I'm sorry, nothing under unfinished business. I jumped ahead. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Jumped ahead to agendas for September. Obviously, Mayor Foster is on there as well as Mayor Carol Pagolina.
And that's all the time I have.
We'll talk about the entrepreneur training. I'll put that on the list. And I have looked into, actually, I looked into the Delmarva Index last week.
So I might share a couple of things from that as well, that I saw.
Like actual index or how to,
I can demonstrate the actual.
Oh, yeah.
The results based, the dashboard.
yeah, I've been through the dashboard,
Okay, yeah,
but,
but there's some data on there that's old and,
Yeah, I mean,
there's some good, and then there's, some you just gotta
you
take.
gotta have the context for it,
All
you don't know, I mean, there's
Exactly.
numbers.
And unless there's anything else that.
Looking
anybody feels
ahead, our
pressing.
next meeting is on 9/11.
Is it on the first?
Just happens.
Yeah.
11.
9/11.
I got you.
So that should be easy enough to remember.
Okay.
David,
Just one other quick item. I went to a housing conference in Dallas last week. And it was a good conference, but they focused on housing just in terms of shelter. They did not focus on it in terms of one of the keys to economic development. We have a number of businesses in Kent County who are short of employees and they can't find housing for them.
Judy has the same issue.
Right. The state talks about what they're doing. Oh, yes, they have special programs for housing next to subway stops. We don't have a whole lot of subway stops. One of the other things they've talked about doing, but haven't as far as I can see, is anything increasing the amount of manufactured homes. Maryland ranks number 48 out of 50 states in percentage of manufactured homes. I believe that stigma associated with some early efforts to that, things that were really mobile homes rather than manufactured. Most people don't know. The cottages at Heron Point are manufactured homes. You can have beautiful manufactured homes at 70% cost. Yes.
David, I would say we need to go back and look at, the Department of Housing and Community Development, Governor Moore's package. There is something in there about manufactured homes. But I did talk to, Bill Mackey, and it might not affect our zoning so much. So I don't understand how all the dynamics work. I haven't gotten in that far, but there really is something in that legislation.
There is.
Maybe we need to dig out and uncover.
But I think there's still a stigma about it.
Yeah.
Some other states, Virginia has a demonstration program in Harrisonburg. There are other places that have done this.
Well,
Just to highlight something, sometimes we just go past the place
in-
and didn't even
in the
know it was a
category of
manufactured
affordable
home.
alert, let's save the rest of this.
Yep.
Oh, you're officially on the agenda.
Right.
Before we adjourn, I would like to congratulate and thank Judy Gifford for your thoughtful evaluation of David's story. It really gave us some good.
I'm the only one who did her homework?
No,
I didn't say that.
I got some from Judy.
What I did say is you forwarded some great comments, some thought-provoking things.
You'll do, I know.
Thank you.
I'm sure, thank you. Well, and it was just a quick pass. I have to apologize for typos. I know you're picky about things like that. I did it on my
Yeah.
iPad and it's just like, oops, I saw it after I had a phone.
Thank you, Judy.
All right, you're
Yes.
Just from a public comment perspective, I was wondering, and piggybacking on what you were just saying, is if there's somewhere in this agenda we can talk about housing, because I do think that if this is the place where we're going to have discussions around housing, I think this is the meeting in which we should at least start the discussion, the focus on it. And if we were to do something like that, then you can count on me to be here every month because it's kind of important.
Well, next month we'll have a bigger space.
Okay.
Yeah, we've started on housing before, but we don't have a housing person.
Yeah.
You know, so it's.
Well, you have lots of housing people,
We
but you don't have one
county
board.
housing.
That's right.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So
Right.
we haven't talked about.
It will be a year.
Not anywhere on it.
Yeah, so anyway, that's just from a public comment perspective, I would really like to advocate for having that as a standard item on the agenda and really talking about that in a more meaningful way.
Good. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I have one thing. The
Shelley?
most important thing of today is that it's Mr. Story's birthday. So we just have to all tell Mr. Story happy birthday.
No singing.
No singing. And now we can do a motion.
You've gone.
That was my.
Song enough? I went too far, I'm sorry.
I'd just like to say that 78 or 79 is a whole lot different than the.
But next year, we'll.
That'd be the big one. I will no longer handle Betterton's count property.
Did your voice recover for it?
Yeah, I did the parade,
So do we need a motion?
We need a motion.
Still need a
thank
motion.
you all.
We need a motion. We need a motion. We need a motion. We need a motion to adjourn,
Motion to
guys.
adjourn. Second.
Second.
All in favor, stand and leave.
Aye.
Thank you.
Now, that's Patterson, Wednesday.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Yeah.
Sometimes. Sometimes not.
Stop sharing. Stop.
We have to go to more. No, I'm record, that's very fast. Record and transcribe of that list.
There we go.
And then, yeah.